The next panel is on investments in publishing. That's a thing that everybody looks for. Where's the money coming from? To tell us more, this panel is titled Navigating the Trends. It's an honest conversation between investors, publishers, and developers. I'd like to call upon the panelists on stage. Kapil, Kulkarni from Nazara, Kislay, Shashwat from Lumikai, NItesh, Jain from M League, Dakshil Mehta from UMX Studios, and Bharat Patel ji from Yudiz Solutions. Mics. सब ऑन है ना? सब ऑन कर दे. So good afternoon, everybody. This panel, like I told you, we have a stellar lineup here. We've got people from some of India's biggest investment funds. Lumikai is here, one of India's only gaming funds. We've got M League and Nazara. And we've got two local players, the only one of the IPOs from Gujarat, which is Yudiz Solutions. And we also have UMX Studios from Rajkot. They also have an international tie-up. So we've got a really good, interesting lineup. And we'll first start off with a round of intros. Who do you represent? How do you come into the industry? What's your journey? And then we'll take from there.
Hello, everyone. My name is NItesh. I am Vice President for Corporate Development for M League Group. It's a mobile-focused global gaming platform. Our flagship product is MPL, by the way, which is a real game, money gaming offering for India, US, and Nigeria right now. We also have a game studio named Game Duel, based out of Europe. It's a complete acquisition for us. It's gaming studio which is roughly 15 years old, focusing on free-to-play card games in the European market. We also actively invest in the Indian market, specifically in the free-to-play space. One of our portfolio companies is Mayhem Studios, which is developing Underworld Gang Wars in the Battle Royale zone. And my personal journey is I've been in this space for around 5 years. Mostly spend time with MPL and M League. Yeah.
Hi everyone, this is Kislay from Lumikai. So thanks to Team IGDC for organizing this. Really kudos to the team's effort. Always great to discuss gaming under one roof. Quickly about me and the fund. I represent Lumikai. We are a gaming and interactive media focused VC fund. We essentially back companies in this sector very early in the journey. So we do seed to pre-series A investments with the check size ranging from 500K to slightly north of $1 million. The fund was started in 2020. Since then, we have made around 14 investments across content, which is essentially gaming studios, tools, tech, platform, infrastructure, and similar other bets in this space. Now we are deploying from a second fund, which was raised last year. And always looking to back founders, promising teams in this space. But my journey, I've been in the startup ecosystem for now 10, 12 years. On this investment sides, I've been around for around 6 years, looking at interactive media as an asset class. Before that, I predominantly used to work with founders, helping them in the capital journey. So I started my career as a banker, worked with founders, helping them raise capital, then worked as an operator in between, with an early stage startup, saw their journey from seed to Series A to an exit. And the last 6 years I've been in gaming. Personally, gaming is very, very close to me. I was a hardcore gamer in my college days. I have 3,000 hours on Steam. Most of it is on Dota. And I really, really enjoy the space and, the work that we do at Lumikai.
Dakshil.
Hello, guys. My name is Dakshil Mehta. I'm from UMX Studios, Rajkot. So basically, UMX Studio is based in India, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. The HQ of the studio is in Saudi, but almost all the development happens over in India in Rajkot. We also have one branch in Pune, but that's dedicated for the 3D artists only. So I've been into space since 2014. I was in the App Gurus in my early days. I started there as a game developer earlier, then transitioned into this operation things and all. So we have been making car game for the MENA region specifically. Couple of our games have been really doing good in those regions since last 8 to 10 years. accumulating around 80 million plus downloads in the last 8 years. So yes, and we are launching one more car game. It's live now in the App Store as a pre-order called Driftex. You can check it out. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm sure that as the sessions go by, you get a little sleepy. I hope, this will not be very sleepy because you have some very interesting people around and I'm nowhere in between, I'm Bharat Patel from Yudiz Solutions Limited. I'm heading the organization as chairman. We started this organization in 2011. I don't know how many of you know, but perhaps a couple of the people will be knowing. 2011 to a little journey of an IPO, which we just closed last August. The process which we have undergone has been quite interesting. What we've been doing is basic IT development services so far, focused primarily on the gaming, which is an important sector for us. Before that, before 2011, I've been into this industry of IT since 35 years. Started as a research scientist with Baba Atomic Research Center and with Space Application Center. And then, of course, my hardware industry and then the software. So that's the kind of journey that I have been into. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kapil Kulkarni. I'm part of Nazara's corporate development and investments team. I'm among the youngest people in this hall in the world of gaming, barely 4 months into this space. I've dabbled in quite a few sectors before joining gaming and finding my home at Nazara. Prior to this, I've been in e-commerce, looked at pharma investments, looked at industrials investments. But largely my function has been centered around M&A advisory and investments. So I would say I have kind of a horizontal experience and not vertical experience. And vertical experience in gaming is something which I'm quite excited to acquire and imbibe, and being part of this August panel of expert gaming investors, gaming entrepreneurs. I feel really privileged to be sitting here. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction, everybody. So we first want to understand, what are the trends like, right? Everybody talks about the winters, and the winter's here, the winter's coming, and now the winter's here. Things are starting to look better. We don't know, very sure. But what are your trends looking like, Nitesh and Kapil? What are the trends looking like? What do you expect 2023, 2024, going 2025? What do you expect will happen to the investment scenario? India and globally.
Got it. I'll start with India. I think 2023 was definitely one of the toughest years when it comes to the funding ecosystem. And it also felt very tough because 2021 was very loose. So from a comparison standpoint, it hit much harder. But internally, we at MLeague specifically feel that 2024 is looking much better. And multiple reasons for that. Firstly, after the entire 2023 downturn, how founders are looking at organizations is also very different. No one is really bothered about chasing valuation anymore. People want to build profitable, sustainable businesses right from the scratch. So that mentality shift has happened because of this winter. So that's definitely aiding, because as an investor, if I look at investing into something and I'm confident that the founder has the right intent, then it becomes an easier decision for me to put money as well. So that's definitely one. Second is India in general as a market has also come out to be something which is very resilient compared to global. While global kind of stood flat on where it was from a revenue standpoint, India still grew around 20-25%. Shows that there is depth in the market, and even in tougher scenarios, people are earning money and they want to spend money in this sector. That's second. And thirdly, I think if you have to look at it, when 2021 was happening, a lot of bigger funds raised up a lot of capital. They are supposed to deploy that capital sometime. So 2024 will start opening up in that sense also, in my opinion. And with respect to global, while I might not have a lot of points to add, I specifically focus on India to start with. What I feel is that India, in general, from a global setup standpoint, is geopolitically strong. People want to invest in this country because demand is picking up. India is growing better than bunch of the peers in the eastern hemisphere of the world. So a lot of money will come into India because global capital, if Feds will reduce their rates, then the money has to flow somewhere where there can be a lot of growth coming from. So a lot of money will come, and 2024 and 2025 will look much better. And like I think Jimesh also mentioned this, if you are building a right product with a very solid team, everything else will happen. Because we as investors are also looking for these two things only. If we have a right product, people just end up chasing at times also. That's the harsh reality of the industry at times.
Thanks. Kislay, I mean, you're also raising funds and increasing things.
Right. So I think Nitesh has covered the macro aspect of fundraising, both in India and globally. I'll just double click on how it applies to gaming, right? So yes, 2023 was a tough year, but I think it's also important to put into perspective the stage of investments, right? So typically, I would say more late stage investments, larger ticket size, north of 10, 20, $100 million, that became a little difficult than before. Investors became more cautious about the traction, they wanted better unit metrics. So yeah, it was difficult to probably raise a Series C, Series B, Series D and beyond. But actually on the contrary, if you look at gaming, seed investments was on the upswing in the last 1.5 years. In fact, to give you some more context, when Lumikai started, we were India's first and only gaming-focused fund at that point in time. And it's good to be early, but you should not be the only one for a long time. So it's good to now see that at least there's a lot of interest now in the general investor ecosystem. A lot of other generalist funds have now started building a specific thesis for gaming. They've started deploying money, backing founders very early in the ecosystem, right? So now there are folks who were, let's say, at the point where, okay, how do we build a thesis on gaming? How do we back founders based on an idea to now actively backing teams, right? So Lumikai obviously has been active at seed stage, backing studios in the last 1.5, 2 years. But now we are also joined by other funds in the ecosystem who are also very keen to deploy funds. And this is not just domestic VCs, but we also see global VCs now willing to kind of take bet on Indian founders, building for both India and globally. So I think from a early stage ecosystem point of view, I think it's been in a very healthy shape. And I think that's going to continue. But having said that, gaming industry in general have its own share of problems of late. Globally, if you look at it, scaling games have become more expensive, difficult. So, and that is actually a good opportunity for folks building for India, right? Like India market and TAM has also kind of proven itself over the last couple of years, across different genres. Like if you take, let's say, mid-core shooting games, PUBG, BGMI rather, and Free Fire, they have shown that, okay, if you build a quality game, people will pay,
You'll have audience,
right? And it's also flowing through other areas as well, right? So even the ad CPMs in India are now 4 to 5x where they were, let's say, 4 or 5 years ago. So net, I think we're in a very, I would say, well-positioned state for founders willing to start in gaming. There's enough ample capital and a very large investor base ready to back you.
Kapil, what do you like? You all also have a publishing business, right? And so what are your things like? As a publisher, what are you looking at? What are the trends like?
Right. So as publisher, we are seeing a lot of traction and a lot of interest from Indian gaming community. And that's the theme which we want to emphasize upon. As an Indian listed gaming company, our focus is on giving encouragement and giving all kinds of support that we could to Indian gamers, Indian game developers, so that India can build for the world. We want to give them a support which would not just help them get a launchpad for their game, but also help scale them up and take it to a global arena. And that's why we very recently launched the publishing initiative, under which we are trying to support Indian gamers get their games published, not just in India, but overseas as well. And we are also open to helping out global big game studios who did not find the kind of success that should have got in India by helping them get their games republished in India. India is set to be a very big market. It's already, in terms of volumes, it's quite a big market. And as the economy continues to grow, fortunately, the global headwinds did not affect India as much as it did other parts of the world. That places India in a very good position economically, and that augurs well for the gaming market in India. With the economy growing, the purchasing propensity, the buying propensity will increase, and monetization of game is also likely to improve. It's a little early to say whether we are seeing green shoots or not, but the funding winter is likely to get over soon. And as investors, as strategic investors, I think this is a more preferred time for us to explore for opportunities, because we look for opportunities which are valued at a very optimized and at a rational level, which was not the case a couple of years back.
Nice. I mean, first Bharat, sir, you, in a winter, you went for an IPO. I mean, like, as a service-based company, you went for an IPO. How has that journey been like? I mean, did the market really help you? What was it like? 'Cause I think that's something interesting for all of us to know. Like, you went for an IPO in the middle of a winter, right? Literally. And
Hello. Yeah, interesting, and I would like to share this, that why IPO and why, one could really get onto this journey. Primarily, the first thing is that, one should have their structures pretty clear in mind as to what they would want to do by raising the funds. But before that, even there should be something else which is more important, is how good are they in terms of the compliances within their organization. See, because sometimes the organizations, when they grow in the initial stage, is very haphazard. People do not know as to what they want to do. The first benchmark is to make the earnings, to suffice the organization running. And then, then comes the next part of it as to what next. But if you have your vision clear as to what you would like to grow, let's say 10 years down the line or 15 years down the line, you would have a path which is very clear as to what you would like to do in the next 3 years, next 6 years, next 10 years, or whatever. And that is what, will raise the questions of whether you have the resources in place or not. And one of the major resources would be the finance. Now, not necessarily that IPO is the only way forward to take the funds. But what happens in a couple of places that I have seen, that, sometimes the investors, they would want to have their say into the product or the services and run the organization in their way, which becomes sometimes a very critical area for the promoters to have the same ideas moving forward. When it goes to an IPO funds, perhaps that's something where they get safeguarded from. So that's something which I would say, that if somebody would want to have an IPO of their own, they should make their house very clean first and set the goals which are very clear.
because then you have larger people to answer to and not
Absolutely.
just
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Dakshil, I mean, since you're out of Rajkot with a tie-up across the MENA region, what are you looking at? I mean, how was it? Like, when did you all become and...
Okay, so our journey has been different. Initially, we have not raised any of the funds. So back when, in 2014, when the Ali, the CEO, founder of the UMX Studio, launched a game in the MENA region, where he focused was to make a game which was not there for that region specifically. So we targeted that region, culturally, locally, everything. So that game was an overnight hit at that time, and from there the funds got generated and we got started slowly. And as I said, a couple of our games then went on to do a massive success. It's different from the Indian market. People over there tends to pay, the LTV over there is much higher over there. So investment side I have not seen much from as of now, but maybe in future.
Yeah, and that's the next leading question. I'd actually ask Dakshil for the next leading question is, a lot of times you hear like founders like with frustration, right? Like trying to raise capital, they're not able to raise capital, or on the other side they think like they're being sidestepped. They normally come out with a defensive mechanism which is, might be true or not, which is our investors don't understand gaming. And you hear that a lot, and I'm sure all of you have heard it, right? Every time, especially when somebody is rejected. Where should founders go? Because I feel that's one of the fundamental questions that's not being answered in the Indian market for a lot of young developers is, at what stage, who do you go to? I think that's something that like a lot of younger audience here would love to understand.
Let me just take this first. One good thing is about this entire ecosystem which needs to be developed. Understanding, as what the earlier panel was saying, is that it's really true that when you go to some investors saying that I have the following games or I have a following platform to which I need funds, either they would say that what is the traction so far that you have made, and if there is enough traction, why does it need funds? That's number one. Number two, if the person at the other end, I would not like to name it, but in Gujarat, we've seen, because I'm there on many panels for the investments, but when the angel investors come in or the seed funders, when they come in, sometimes they do not understand the gaming arena itself. They have no clue as to what this could really come up to. Thanks to Nazara, which has really created that buzz. Thanks to, I think, 2 or 3 initiatives of the government. First, I would say thanks to Jio because of the internet speeds, and then to the smartphones. I think this has brought a massive change in people's perception of understanding. And this has led now to the newer generation, which are the fund houses, to make them understand that, okay, yes, this is a prospective investment and asset class of its own. So people who want to do it. The other good initiatives is by the government in the startups arena, as what Hiranmai in the morning was there, who looks after the good startup ecosystem across the country, and the policy making where the central government has also made a lot of changes, right from the Shrujan grant to the rest of it. Even grants of 30 lakhs of rupees is pretty simple for any startups. Provided the people in front of the pitch, when his pitching is the product, the people at the other end understand. So what we are trying to do is to create this ecosystem where at least when they pitch a product or a service of their own, at the recipient side, they should understand what they're actually meaning it. So that's where, people like us, we should be contributing more to the ecosystem to understand.
To make them understand. Yeah, but that's why I want to ask Nitish on that. Although you come with the experience of 15 years, but there are, all of us are much younger as well. And the thing is, where do founders go, right? Do you go to a startup cell? Do you go to an angel? Do you raise money from friends and family? So what stage, where do you raise? That I think will also be interesting for.
I think, firstly, on a lighter note, if you're raising money, just come to M-League. That's the ideal place to start. But yeah, I think this is a very valid question, and I think the situation has evolved a lot over the last 4 or 5 years. 4 or 5 years back, like Kislay also touched on this, you didn't have a lot of people actually investing or understanding this space enough. And you had only limited options to go to. But now there is enough understanding, there is enough capital available. And depending upon when you are starting up, when you start up, there is a certain requirement you have very clear in your head that, hey, I have a very solid product team. I can build this out. I need someone who has more patience. Then you might reach out to someone else. Probably some angels will have more patience there, or some startup sales, or etc., etc. Or probably you can reach out to some strategic partners who are sitting on profits and they are in this for the long run. But let's say if you want to do it in a way where you have the product ready, but you don't even know how to scale the product now, then probably a publisher is the best placed option for you, because not then just the capital, you need the expertise as well to really scale your game. Otherwise, you have to build all those capabilities yourself. So yeah, it totally depends on where you are in your journey, and if you're starting up at that point also, while it at times is very difficult to pin down to exactly what you need, but you still have some Uber level sense as a founder that, hey, this is something I can manage myself. Some inherent feeling you will have that this is something we can figure out, but this is some area where we definitely need support over and above the capital. So that's, I think, should be the guiding principle in my view. Yeah.
Yeah, Kislay, sorry, the water being passed on. Yeah, Kislay, what do you think? You meet a ton of founders and startups and studios, right? And you probably reject more than you accept. That's the game. And I'm sure you hear a lot of frustration on the other side. But how do you balance it out? As founders, when I come to you as a VC, when do I have to come to you? And what are you betting on? Are you betting on a product? Are you betting on the founders? Are you betting on, what is that you're betting on?
Yeah, so I think, 4 years ago is when the fund started, it's 2020. That time, as I said, there was no one really backing gaming startups at seed. There were a few examples here and there, but as an asset class, it is very unknown that point in time, right? So if you look at our investments, we have backed, our stage of investing is seed stage. So we have backed founders building in gaming at pretty early stage as well, right? We have backed founders, just an idea on paper. that this is what idea, this is what we're building. They come to us with a PPT, and we have backed them as well. We have backed founders who have come to us with a prototype and some early traction. We have also backed them. So I think it's less of a stage and more of what we look for when we invest. I can probably double click on that, right? So see, game building is, I would say, some art and science combined, right? It's not straightforward numbers analysis. It's not also straightforward just creative vision and art. And there are different parts of it, right? Your first part is, okay, I conceptualize, I look for a thesis, that this is the kind of game I'm working on, this is my idea, this is how I'll probably differentiate. That is just the initial part. Then comes the part where you build a prototype, you do some kind of early PMF test, you do closed beta, open beta, all of that, where test for retention. Then comes the phase, where you have to be adapt with data. You need to understand what are your early users, interacting with the product, where are the gaps, how do you iterate on that, right? So this whole journey from 0 to 1, that's very iterative, and especially in mobile gaming, right? It's not like PC and console where you ship and hope that the people buy the product. So I think that mindset is important. Knowing that journey is important. That okay, how do I go from ideation to creating the first prototype to, let's say, figuring out D1 retention on my game. Right? That's the first step. So we look for team who have some kind of expertise doing that in the past. We've also taken bets where some teams have not, but we heavily index on the founder's background here. Like, do you know what game building essentially entails? Right? It's not just about a creative idea at the end of the day, right? So that is one. Second is, apart from that, you also need to know how to scale the game, right? Yes, you can rely on publishers, but if you really need to create value, you need to also know yourself, how do you scale a game? How do you do UA? And obviously last step is, how do you meaningfully monetize your game, right? Whether it is ads, then you should know how to set up the ad stack, what are the best practices there. If it is monetize IAPs, then you need to know how to balance the game economy and all of that. So all of that is very, I would say, specialized skill, game design, game economy, art. So it's a mix of all of that, right? So when we have backed founders at seed stage without any game prototype, we are obviously indexed on the people, the team's background. But can they pull this off? Can they do the 0 to 1 and the 1 to N themselves? Right? So that's where I think we heavily index on. Obviously, then comes the idea and the thesis. We are not very particular on that. We have also backed teams building for India in a very wide space, where no one has attempted something. We've also backed founders building in a very competitive space for global markets. So it depends on case-to-case basis, but I think the team's thought process, framework, what's the unique insight on what they're building plays a very important role.
Okay, nice. So Nitish actually touched it upon in the beginning itself. The founders and the team and the integrity is what matters a lot for anything. Dakshil and actually Kapil first. You all have done a lot of investments. You all have done a lot of mergers and acquisitions as well. But what is it like? You all also, of course, you all look a lot more not at the early stage, but people are well established. But when you do something like that for a founder, at what stage should a founder come to you? What should be market cap? What is it? What kind of a company should come to you if you're looking for a merger and acquisition?
Right. So we don't always essentially look for mergers and acquisitions. I would want to clarify that. We are also open to making minority investments. At what stage companies should approach us? I think 3-4 factors are quite important for us. First is the founder quality, how well they understand the game and what kind of execution capabilities do they have. I believe it would be extremely difficult to find any founder who does not have an intent to build a good game, but how well that translates into execution, that is something to be kind of understood. Sometimes it's just a factor of the intuition which we have built as an organization to spot good founders. That comes into picture. Sometimes it is very data driven. We put their capability to execute to test by running some trials and running some pilots. So founder quality, their execution capability. Product market fit is very important. A game in which we would really like to invest is a game which has established some credentials of its own. If not profitable, at least there is some path to profitability, but it has to be post-revenue. So those are the criteria in terms of financial metrics that we look at. Qualitatively, as I mentioned, founder quality. And third would be what kind of market obtainability are we looking at. So gaming in India is a big market, but that is the total addressable market that we have. Out of that universe, what kind of market is this game going to cater, and to what extent a game like this is going to obtain it? Because if there are so many games, for example, there are some very popular genres in which there are multiple of games. It's very difficult to become a winner in that kind of segment. So a white space ideally, or a game which is of such a good quality that it is unmatched by the existing games in the market. So those are some of the qualities that we are very much interested in. And as I said, game has to have must have reached some level of maturity, some level of product market fit.
And this is like an advisory question to people, is like, when do you go to a VC? When do you go to an angel? You know, like, when do you do, like, what do you do, when do you do? And Bharat actually touched upon it initially itself, is I think that, like, you all understand where I'm coming from, is like, founders don't know, like, one is like, what kind of a pitch deck, right? What kind of a pitch deck do you get to which person? What kind of funds do you raise from who? A little bit of insights. Can you just be general insights? NItesh, and then Bharat.
No, I can start definitely on the pitch deck. So what I think a lot of founders are specifically trying to figure out is, as VCs, we end up meeting a lot of people. So and if you keep on, and when you meet a lot of people, it always becomes very important on what you grasp from the initial conversation you get. So keeping the pitch deck very simple and very clear on what you are doing, what's your team which is doing it, why you are doing that, and where you want to be and where you are. So like just keeping it very clear and very up there makes our job very, very easier, because now we got what we really wanted to say in probably less time, and we can use the remaining time in having more meaningful conversation. Otherwise, I'll set up 2 follow-ups to understand more about what you were really saying in the first conversation. So all of that is something that really helps from just immediate efficiency standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we index a lot on clarity of thought in general, was what NItesh was saying. Obviously, if your pitch deck is structured, it helps. But again, our way of operating is slightly different. We have also sometimes, just brainstormed with founders, jammed them over ideas, and figured out, okay, this is something that they want to build, right? But yes, let's say if you're approaching someone with a pitch deck, a VC, that, okay, this is my idea, this is what I want to do. Obviously, having a clear-cut kind of vision articulated very well in the deck is important. Deck is only a means to an end, though. So I think don't fuss too much about, okay, the formatting and the way to structure it. Make sure that the idea that you're trying to communicate is coming out clearly, right? And also, obviously our job as VCs is to, go deeper into what they're trying to build, validate certain assumptions. So I think, but we also look for is, what is your unique insight here? Obviously, we'll do our job. We will probably double click on what you are claiming that you will build, or how big is the market. But if you are going to build in this space, what is your unique right to win, right? Is there some unique insight? Because let's say you have built some kind of games before, hence you know how to build for this audience. That should come out in a pitch clearly well. That, okay, I have an interesting idea. This is my team's background. This is why we are best positioned to build this, and this is my unique insight as to why we will win, right? A couple of examples I can give for more clarity here is, let's say there's a team who has experience building casual games, puzzle games for global users, global audience. If they have done something similar in the past, they've already seen that journey 0 to 1 and also 1 to n, and they're coming to us with an idea that, okay, we have done this before. Within puzzle, we saw a couple of ideas where we see enough innovation has not happened yet. This is what we're going to pursue. This is our approach, and this is how we'll do it, right? That's a very strong, clear-cut pitch to us. Versus, okay, yeah, we will do something in puzzle because it is big enough market and stuff is little vague, right? So that's one way to do it. So I think that unique insight and clarity of thought is very, very important to us.
Kapil and Bharat first, sorry. Is like, if I want to raise $100,000, who do I go to? If I want to raise $50,000, who do I go to? If I want to raise $10,000, who do I go to? I think that's one of the things that a lot of, like, we do something called an Investor Publisher Connected IGDC, which is one of our flagship programs. We did 1,800 curated meetings last year, 72 investor publishers, 130 odd applicants. We did, but one of the problems that we hear it constantly from people like NItesh and Kislay and Nazara is, hey, but this guy, why is this guy coming to me, right? And that's something I think a lot of founders don't understand. Like even as a publisher, you want the big publisher, but you're not going to the right publisher. But at what stage, who should I go to? Like if I want, at what stage of money raising, who should I go to?
See, I think you're asking this for the second time, and
Yeah.
which is very important because I think everybody have not been really been addressed in the right format. I think the first level, if they don't have the product or the idea, which is at a stage which they cannot fund it themselves, or it's a bootstrapping, they would go to their own relatives and collect some funds, and they'll try and make an MVP. But that perhaps may not work to a certain extent beyond, like, okay, they might have an MVP which may be working, may not be working to a level. But I think the first level where they can approach would be an accelerator and incubation centers. Be it private, be it government owned, whatever. But I think that's where the openness of, looking into this kind of ideas would be primarily into in place. And I think again over there, like if it is a basic idea, people may just get some kind of funds, which are very low, perhaps to create just an MVP out of an idea. So they might have even gone with an idea and create an MVP. So even for that, they would need funds. At the moment, most of us, we are talking about just software-based games. But if somebody is going with a mixed reality-based or even which is with the hardware, they would need funds which will want to be created with the with the reference ideas and all that. So in that case, the incubation center or the accelerators would be the first level where they should actually approach. And then, once an MVP is ready, they start making some kind of traction and all that. I think that's where they should start searching for the angel investors. Yeah. Those who can really understand that. And that could be out of companies who are already into, the areas of gaming or whatever. They could be a potential angel investors or even the seed investors. And then, of course, the series, meaning the seed and the series and that's what I would say.
Yeah. Actually, if there are a bunch of incubators across colleges, institutes. I think I am Ahmedabad also has an incubator for gaming.
Yeah, many.
There
I
are many,
have, at least as far as Gujarat is concerned.
Yeah, you've got the state governments.
Yeah, there's so many of them.
Yeah, you've got large companies like the India Hero Project from Sony. You've got Krafton with their Kigi, which is the Krafton India Gaming Incubator. So you've got a bunch of incubators. Why? This question is relevant because I think one of the things that I feel at least is all of you all come from big cities. We've got two people from smaller cities. I mean, Ahmedabad is not a small city, but at least not like the main metros where all the big money bags are. And I feel developers in smaller towns fail to even reach market, right?
That's true.
Dakshil, what is like from Rajkot to an international tie-up, how difficult or easy was it?
Yeah, if you just consider from the Rajkot perspective, it's really difficult. I would say in our case, we were lucky that we had support from Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, where the gaming...
Sorry, how did that happen though?
Okay, so back in 2014, I started with Ali. We developed the first game or first version, and after a couple of years doing that back and forth, in 2016 we established and incorporated in India as well as Saudi, both. So we waited till some success which we reached. We reached a few success, then we incorporated this studio. So from that perspective, we were lucky in that way that we have help from there. As also, I think Saudi government in all of that are also helping to fund technology and gaming, all the stuff. But there was a big lack of talent, which we have, I think, over here in India. So we decided to do all the development here only in India and set up there just marketing and publishing and localizing support. So what we are looking, if someone is looking for a publisher in a MENA region, they can come to us. We can help you publish your game in that region, which I don't think many of here is doing that. Not only in just localizing, but we all deeply understand that market, what people over there wants or what people over there knows.
I would like to add one more point here, as he rightly said, because I originally belong to Rajkot, so I know that there are certain industries in Rajkot, which has groomed up in such a way that in minutes you can collect crores of rupees. Not that it cannot be done, but only thing is that, as what someone was saying, that people generally look at what is the kind of assets that you have. But in here, it will be all everything in the mind. So creating that information passed on to a person who's wanting to invest, if they are young in its age, they would say, yes, this is possible, and we can all collectively collect the money. And especially in the Saurashtra region, where Rajkot is the capital of that area, people do work on the basis of trust. So if the idea is something which they feel that, this is going to work, based on the trust, they can collect any amount of money. I'm sure you'll be ready for that.
I mean, that I think is true in most cases. I mean,
Yeah, but so this is the first way by which people would, but and as most of the people also mentioned about, the founder is most important. The jockey is more important than the horse. That if the founder is trustworthy and they know that this person can really drive whatever the idea that he has, I think there's no dearth of getting the funds.
thank you. Kapil, so next question is like we're talking about what kind of founders looking for, but for y'all, what kind of games really work, and which are the markets that you think that y'all want to really enter and pivot into? Like we know MENA, we know LATAM, but what is it like?
In terms of geography, we want to target games which have global appeal. Till the time India as a market doesn't become lucrative enough, it is still a big market, but it is still to reach that tipping point beyond which it would start becoming reach the cash cow kind of a stage. So till the time that happens, we want to keep our focus on the global markets. Quite a few of our studios are building from India for the world. And we are also at the same time focusing on global studios, which may be based anywhere in the world, but are catering to the clientele in Western markets, which are better monetized. There is no dearth of talent, as you can see from this room itself. So many exciting games, so many exciting developers with so many exciting ideas are there in India, and this is just one city we are talking about. Think about, there are at least 30, 40 cities where such kind of presence would be there. And we believe that India as a market could become a supplier of gaming demand for the global markets.
NItesh, last, as MPL, you're also in Africa, Nigeria, and I think in LATAM. So what does that mean? For developers here, are those good markets for developers to look at? And why? Or why not?
Got it. So, no, I think one specific nuance gaming as an industry has, which works very well for all the other consumer tech businesses in India, is it's not operationally heavy. If you have to launch operations in some other country, you just extend the product you have. Your product just works on very limited live operations. If let's say I have to launch a Swiggy in Africa, I'll have to build a bunch of things and go there and do that. So that advantage essentially plays out very well. If you have built liquidity in one country, you can very well extend that liquidity to an African market, to a LATAM market, to an American market, and European market. And that's, I think, was the sole reason why we did that as well. In MPL, we realized that, hey, competitive gaming is something which, if it appeals to an Indian gamer, why will not appeal to an African or a LATAM gamer? And there are not a lot of people doing that. So it became a no-brainer to us. And we did that. And in my opinion, be it competitive gaming or be it free-to-play, there's a lot of information available with respect to which markets have which genres already established. You can just do a quick due diligence from your end itself that the genre which I'm working in, does this have a lot of competition there? If not, then it becomes just an expansion of the existing product itself. And you figure out from a local partner or from some publisher that who can provide you the liquidity or some marketing capabilities in that market, then it's just additional revenue for you. Yeah.
Thanks. We're almost running out of time. Any questions? No questions? Nobody wants money? Yeah? You got a question there? No. Mike, please.
Hello. I think Kislay sir has dabbled into this answer somewhat, but I just wanted to ask.
Your name first, I mean, we don't know.
Rishabh. Sorry. Yeah, I'm Rishabh. I wanted to ask, so if there's an early stage startup that's building a hardcore game, like something that would return in a long-term profit, what kind of qualifications or background do you look into for investing or funding, something like that? General insights is also fine.
Right. I think irrespective of the genre, I would say the team's capability of executing that is something we obviously index on. So also one thing that I want to add is we don't evaluate it basis just one game. We want to understand what is the vision of that studio. As we are backing a studio essentially, we're not backing a single game. So as founders, maybe I've identified first idea that this is what I'm going to build in, let's say, hardcore, midcore, or casual category. But what after this? Let's say, what's your second idea? Let's say if this does not work. What's plan B, plan C for you? So I think that's also equally important for us because we like it or not, most of the studios who are successful globally, their first game was not a success. I mean, game building is very hard, and most of the time, your first game maybe will not succeed as per your expectations, right? So I think that studio mindset is important. Hardcore specifically, where you're seeing the gestation period to build is very high. Obviously, there is an execution risk which we also try and understand that can this team actually build this? Just to give an example, there are some studios, let's say, who are building AAA shooting games from India, right? So there, our focus would also be to understand, can this game be shipped, right? Because it's a mix of art, technical art, dev capability, game design, all of this, to put together a game like that, right? So I think depends on case-to-case basis, but broadly, this is how we would look at.
And what about publishers and?
I also have one clarifying question. When you said background, did you mean qualifications of the founders or something like that?
Yeah, qualifications of the founder, the team, and stuff like that.
Got
So
it.
because
I think
it's a general question for an early stage startup, so you wouldn't have a lot of people and the team would be small. So that's how I was asking the question.
got it. No, I think the ecosystem in general has evolved on that front. It's not necessarily people are looking for IITs to start gaming. If you come from the background where you understand gaming very well and you can build a kick-ass product, then every one of us will be very much interested in investing. It has nothing to do with your degree. It only boils down to whether you understand games, whether you can build games, or you're passionate about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so to add on to that point, that the gaming as a market, game developing as a market has very low barriers to entry. But making a successful game is a very high barrier to entry. So it doesn't matter what your qualification or background is. All depends on how well you can execute it.
Thank you. If you have no more questions,
Thank you.
Sorry, we have one more question.
Hi, Ashish here from X-Quartz. I would like to understand what are the exit strategies for angel or any kind of VC thought when they enter to any kind of funding. So what are the thought process behind it? Will it be before enter or will it be after enter, or what are the things?
Yeah, exit will obviously happen after we enter. So it will happen after a period of time, let's say 4, 5, 7 years, depends on that. In gaming specifically, if you see, majority of exits happen through M&A. 70% of gaming exits globally have happened through M&A. If you look at the two largest exits in India, Play Simple, which was acquired by MTG Group of $500 million. Moonfrog is another exple by Stillfront Group. Nazara obviously IPO'd recently, but in general, there is a lot of cash-rich gaming companies globally, which have ample money to deploy, and if a game is successful, if a game is doing well, it makes a no-brainer for them to come up, do a strategic acquisition there. That's one. IPOs also, I think it's a market which is opening up right now. It's, I would say, relatively less explored right now. But we have seen global companies do IPO game as well. And in India also, I think the IPO market is now opened up for tech companies as well, right? Even if you are not profit-making to some extent, but you have a path to profitability. So it's a mix of both. For angels, do you also want to understand for angels what is the exit, or just for VC funds?
I would like to understand both.
So for angels and let's say other smaller investors who let's say have invested very early in the journey, obviously there's a path to an IPO, there's a path to an exit, right? That's mostly the end outcome. Along the way, if the company does well, if it raises more rounds of funding, or in general it is doing well, then there's a lot of opportunities in secondaries market as well, right? Where other larger investors who now want to become a shareholder, a lot of times angels usually exit to that route. Like some cases they obviously stay till the end, but a lot of times angels, let's say, come in at a pre-seed stage and maybe they exit at a Series B stage or sometimes even at Series A, Series C, depends on what the investor's appetite is.
Yeah. Thank you. It was a really good discussion. Thank you so much. I hope it offered some valuable insights to everybody in the room. All of us are still going to be around, so you can still pick everybody's brains for the next 1 hour. We've got one more session left. Thank you, everybody. Good. I would like to call upon Mr. Arun Gupta to give away a token of appreciation to our panelists.